Okay. So how long have you been a connected educator?
Ooh, let's see. I would say right around 2003, 4, in that range was when that kind of started up. It started by accident. I got a little award from a local phone company, and that dropped me into a 6-day event that they had down in Ojai, and I went, oh my gosh, that guy's cool, that guy's cool, that guy's cool, she's cool, she's cool. And it was a film camp thing, and so we kind of formed a little friend group out of that turned into, well, it was already in existence, but it really maximized the Slick Rock Film Festival, and so that's where my original core group of friends came from.
Oh, wow. And then you answered my other question, that how you became connected. So how has being a connected educator helped you in dealing with all the demands of an educator today?
I would tell you that the big difference is that, and George Couros talks about this, and he wrote a book called The Innovator's Mindset, and he talks about the idea that being an isolated educator nowadays is a decision. You know, when I was growing up, my teachers, they came to school in the morning, they did their school thing, they made their mimeographs, and they went home and they put it all away and they were by themselves. I can't even remember my teachers going to like professional development when I was in school. Like, I don't even remember them ever saying, I'm going to a conference.
Yeah.
And so nowadays, when you've got maybe 1,000 people hanging out with you on Twitter, or you go to Twitter chats and you've got friends from 3 other districts or 4 other districts, or you got friends out of state that teach in the same grade level as you do, it's like having a backup group. It's like having, people that are if you need an idea, or you say, hey guys, I've been seeing this Kahoot thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
You don't have to be alone in that. You can work together on things. And I think that connectedness is a massive game changer in education.
Yeah. I actually met George Couros. He was a keynote speaker at a tech rodeo I went to here in Tulare. So,
yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
He's a good guy.
Yeah,
he's a really cool cat.
But
it's a pretty good example, like the fact that you could now tweet George, and he lives in Canada, right? That's and that connectedness really is more of a community mindset.
Yeah, it's a great thing. So what are some examples of like how your professional practice has changed from when you started to now?
Okay, so the first 2 or 3, maybe even 5 years of my education was an incredibly lonely experience. I would go in, I would work with the kids, and I had great fun with the kids. But at the end of the day, I didn't have anybody to share it with except for at the staff meeting. And nowadays, if I was in a classroom right now, I would be tweeting and Instagramming the work that kids are doing and sharing that. And what would be happening is people would be saying, oh, that's pretty cool. Guess what I did? I had it on this thing. Or did you realize you could do this? And I think a little short vignette of that is I came up with a little kind of lesson plan called 8 parts. And in that, you take a funny picture and you have the kids come up with all 8 parts of speech about the picture, right? And it's cute, but I've been doing that since 2002. Somewhere around 2009, 10, 11, in that range, a teacher spotted me sharing that on the internet, and she has taken it to a whole other level. So she's made Kahoots that go with it, and Google Drawings, and all these other things. And then when people tweet at me and say, oh, this is cool, it's a great idea, I include her in the tweet. And then, so now we are now sharing that thing going forward. Now there's 4 or 5 of us doing it, and now we're this little work team. We've never worked a single day of school together on the same location, but we're all working on the problem together. And then about 5 months ago, a friend of mine took that same idea of a single idea and talking about all the parts of speech, and she did the exact same thing with the number of the day. So they're taking the number of the day and breaking it apart in a bunch of different ways, like the number times 1/10, the number times 1/20, 1/10 minus the whole number, and divided by this. And they're doing all these really cool things. It's on the same workflow. But that's one of the cool things about being able to share what you're creating with other educators.
And I heard about that 8 parts through a 6th grade teacher in my district because I'm moving up to 6th grade next year.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and it's great because, teachers, one of the things I'm really working on right now, this is kind of a sidebar, but one of the things teachers I think are really wrong on, and this is our culture, our teaching culture is wrong on this, is they go from lesson plan to lesson plan to lesson plan to lesson plan. And the problem with that is there's no cohesion,
Mm-hmm.
and you're on this constant search for a new lesson plan. Excuse me, I'm gonna cough.
Okay.
A little jumped up this morning.
No problem.
And so what I've been really playing with over the last 10 or 12 years is the idea of protocols. So that like that 8 parts thing,
Mm-hmm.
that is my total lesson plan until about Halloween for grammar and writing.
Mm-hmm.
We just do the same thing every day. We need a new funny picture and we go faster and faster and faster. And check this out. When you get that many reps in, who passes? Everybody passes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're working at a mastery level. So I'm really working on the idea of protocols instead of lesson plans. Because if you think of the teachers pay teachers model, this is, and I've been this teacher Sunday night, oh my gosh, I don't have a lesson for this. So I go to teachers pay teachers or something like that, right? I drag up that one lesson plan, which turns out to be like 4 worksheets. But then what do I do after that?
Yeah.
And so my logic is think of it more like sports practice. Every day at sports practice, we do calisthenics and stretching, right? And then we do individual skills, which might be depending on the sport, footwork or handwork or passing. And you do all these different little protocols, and those add up to a sports team. You don't come to sports practice every day and do a different practice.
Mm-hmm. True.
So that's something I've been playing with. So when you're ready to do 8 parts, let me know. I'll walk you right through it. It's magic. And then there's a follow-up protocol called sentence parts.
Oh, awesome.
And that takes me up to about Thanksgiving. And then I tell people, do you know what we do after that? And they go, no. And I go, they can actually write. We can do anything we want at that point.
That's
so
awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So if there's educators that you come across that, kind of are thinking, I may want to kind of spread my wings and see what everybody else is doing out there. And, how would you encourage them if they're more interested to be connected than they already are, but they're not there? Like, what tips would you give them?
Let's see. To get connected, the first thing, and I've been showing people this lately, if you're Twitter curious, like I've heard of this Twitter thing, but I don't want to jump in. My advice would be you can go to twitter.com and search without even making an account. So there's no commitment. So some of my favorite hashtags would include hashtag California EdChat, so CA EdChat. Or let's say that you teach English. Guess what? There's an ELA chat, and there's an English chat. And you could just literally Google popular educational hashtags, and you'll get this whole list. And so if anybody that's listening doesn't know what a hashtag is, it's just like the tab on your manila folder. If you cut all those tabs off, what would happen to your organization? It would be over, right? So the hashtag just provides a tab that allows you to focus in. But if you go onto Twitter and find, let's say you're an English teacher and you go to hashtag ENG chat, you can just scroll through what's going on right there. And you don't have to make an account and you don't have to tweet. And I think there's this, I hear this a lot from people. Oh, I don't have time for that. Well, you don't have to chat about, I'm having a cup of coffee. You don't have to chat, I'm grading papers. You don't have to tweet any of that. You only tweet what you think is powerful, but it's perfectly acceptable to be a lurker and never tweet anything. And somehow over the last few years, I've gotten up to where I've got about 18,000 followers. And I get on in the morning when I wake up, I turn my phone on and I flip through the feed to see what's cool and new. And then I do that for maybe 5 to 8 minutes. And then at lunch, I'll take another hey, what's going on the Twitter? And I look at a couple of things. Oh, that's funny. And I hit retweet. I'm not writing posts. And then I do that again at the end of the day. And I get a lot of cool ideas. I get to see what's state of the art. And my time commitment's almost nothing. So I think there's this perception that if you're on Twitter, you have to be tweeting,
Yeah.
just graded papers, just chewed out a kid, just went to the bathroom. You don't have to be committed at that level. And then participating in a chat itself. So like, again, California Ed Chat Sunday nights, Q Chat is every Tuesday night. Just being able to jump in and retweet a couple of things. If you like something, hit retweet or hit the little heart. And then the person that has shared that sees that you've retweeted it. And you know what will happen is, sooner or later, you're going to show up at a conference and you're going to go, oh, that's Ed Campos Jr. I've seen your tweets. And then you can walk up to him and say, I really like how you handle math, and I really like your ideas. And all of a sudden, you've got a little friendship going there. And it transcends what your district training would be.
Yeah.
If district training was going to fix this problem, it would have fixed it, because we've had plenty of district training.
Yes.
Just working with your own food group doesn't work so well in idea growth.
Yeah. How do you balance your connectivity with the rest of your life?
I'll tell you, I saw a quote about 9 or 10 years ago from Fiorello LaGuardia, who's a former mayor of New York, and on his statue it says, "My work is my hobby."
Oh,
that's my perspective.
Yeah.
This is my avocation. Okay, and a parallel I like to use is think about a youth pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that a teacher on the food chain is above or below a youth pastor? My argument would be we're on the same plane as a youth pastor. And you know what? If you're a youth pastor and a kid texts you at 9 o'clock at night and says, "I'm scared and I need to make a decision," as a youth pastor, do you go, Sam, not in my contract hours"? So my parallel there is if we want to be at that same level of commitment to human beings as a youth pastor, then my work is my hobby. If I can literally shut off my teacher brain because it's not contract hours, I'm not sure how effective of an educator I'm going to be. I'm not sure that's the optimal scenario. Am I saying it's wrong to have personal time? I am not. And do I need to answer every email after hours? I do not. But I think aiming for never working after hours, that's where it starts to get kind of weird.
Yeah.
And again, the youth pastor, or how about this? Imagine a football coach for a school saying, I don't want to talk to my starting quarterback on Saturday. I'm very busy. Or an FFA teacher saying, I can't participate with my FFA people after school hours. That's weird. But somehow in core areas like English, science, we can tell kids, I'm not at work right now. You're on your own.
Yeah.
I think we do ourselves a disservice in that way.
Yeah, definitely. You talked about Twitter. Is that I'm assuming that's probably your primary social social network and community.
You know what I've been noticing in the last 2 years is that there's a big push. There is a definite big push on the Facebook side, and here's my working theory on that. I got a couple girls who are volleyball club team members, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a Saturday, and I'm stuck in a big gym somewhere or a fairground, and my girls have 2 hours between games. What am I going to be doing?
Yeah.
I'm going to be looking through my Facebook, right? And I've started picking up a lot more friends on that are Facebook-centric educators, and I believe we're on the cusp of this becoming a thing, where more PD is going to be getting delivered via Facebook than Twitter. I think Twitter will remain kind of the hardcore leading edge, because I don't think everybody has that level of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think you're going to see more and more professional development going on at Facebook, because if you look at the demographic of females aged 25 to 45, where's most of their social media happening? And most of it's going to be at Facebook. So when that group starts talking professional development on Facebook, I think there's going to be a big update on what's going on there.
As of right now, would you say probably, obviously Twitter is probably the most beneficial place to...
Yeah, Twitter's the most aggressive place right now,
Okay.
right? Twitter's like the more hardcore of the group. But I do think that there's a definite how do I put it, emerging pattern on Facebook for volume. Because I mean, like my personal Facebook 2 years ago, I rarely talked about education at all, and now I've got a whole group on there that is doing educational stuff strictly through Facebook, and I think that's a pretty cool development, personally. But I think it's good. I think that's where we're going.
What other tools or networks do you use in your connected life?
For me, it's primarily going to be Twitter and Facebook. Voxer's a nice add-on.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Voxer at all?
No.
Okay, think of Voxer like almost like private Twitter. So your messages only go to people that you've decided to work with.
Okay.
But then the flow is very much like Twitter, where you can add a link, you can talk, you can type, but you can also push a button and just talk.
Oh, okay.
And so we've been using Voxer a lot in our professional development stuff, because when we pull together a team for an event, let's say we got 10 educators, what are the odds that we can get everybody in a Google Hangout at the same time?
Yeah.
That's hard. That's hard, because guess what? My best trainers are also going to be crazy busy people. That's their nature.
Yeah.
So trying to get 10 people together at the same time is not that easy. With Voxer, we can start up a Voxer group. We can drop them all in and say, hey, you guys, check out this link for this event so you know what's going on. And they're like, oh, that sounds good. And everybody can voice chat back and share on the fly. And nobody has to actually meet. So we may pick up boxes from somebody back east at 4 in the morning our time. And we may send them boxes at 9 in the evening our time, which is midnight their time. Doesn't matter.
Wow.
You listen whenever you're in the mood. And the basic service is free. So it's a really cool option. It doesn't have the same spread, if you will, as like a Twitter, because of the nature of its private groups. So you're never going to have like 80,000 Voxer followers. That isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's pretty solid.
Oh, that's good. I'm going to kind of change directions as far as being in the classroom. Are you actually in the classroom now, or are you just primarily with Q?
I work with Q full time now.
Okay.
And so I haven't been in a classroom in, it's scary, it's almost 4 years now.
Oh, well.
But my last 2 or 3 years, I was teaching principal. So I was a principal at Minarets High School, but I reserved a couple classes for myself so that I wanted to keep myself up to speed in classroom development as much as possible. And I'll tell you why. The classroom is a different place than it was 5 years ago. It's a totally changing environment that way. And so I think it's really critical that that we stay abreast of what's happening with the kids, because the kids are what's changing. And I like to tell people this: if all the kids were coming home at night with grades of mostly A's and B's, none of this would be going on.
Yeah.
Because we'd have a happy, mature clientele, right? If most kids, and the key is most, every will never do this, but if most kids came home and said, oh my God, Mom, we had the best worksheets today. These worksheets were so good. And our teacher just talked and talked, and I loved every second. I love listening to my teacher talk all day long. And I have some of the best crosswords for homework right now. I'm just going to be so excited to be doing all these crosswords, because these are going to get me a great career and get me into a great college. If that was working, we wouldn't be talking. So the only thing that's missing right now is that kids don't realize how much power they have in that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, if you imagine this, I want you to visualize that if kids said, I'm not going to come to school for a week, nationwide. They said, I'm not coming back to school until I have fast Wi-Fi. and a device and good fresh food, I'm not coming back. How long do you think kids could hold us hostage? I'm guaranteeing you we could get that thing changed real fast.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to share that idea because I think bringing it up could get me in trouble with a whole bunch of groups. But if kids just said, I'm not coming back to school till you guys get this right, imagine how much power that would be for the kids. And they just don't realize it because they're kids. They don't realize the power that they have. Otherwise, they would have already just said, I want this fixed.
Yeah. So what would like the perfect space for students to learn look like in your vision, or maybe you've taught in that space?
No, I haven't taught in that space yet, but I would say, I would use it's something easy for everybody to understand. I would say, something like a Starbucks. Here's a little story from marketing. I don't know how old you are, but I remember growing up, McDonald's used to talk about how they wanted fast turnover in their restaurants. They wanted people to come in, order, and leave. And that's why in the 70s, McDonald's was so bright and ugly. They wanted people to leave. They wanted people to walk out and say, I'm out of here. They wanted people to leave in about 7 minutes. And then this thing called Starbucks came along. And now what does it look like when you go to a McDonald's? It looks like Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
It looks inviting and friendly. And I think that there's a lot to do there with the idea of a comfortable environment, and it's brain friendly. I think that we're going to move away from cemetery style seating. That's what I like. I saw somebody tweet that, so it's like rows and columns.
Yeah.
I like a classroom that we've come up with kind of a rule of thirds concept where classrooms will have about a third of the desks are your classic single person desk. About a third of the desks are skinny tables, like about 18 inches to 2 feet wide, that have flip tops, so they can all nest together. And that means that when you need room, you can just flip all the tables, roll them over to the side, and now your room's huge. And then I like about a third of the room being kind of pub height tables, whether they're round or square or whatever. But I just want you to use your mind's eye and go, look, here's a classroom. I've got a 1/3 of these, 1/3 of these, and 1/3 of these. And I've actually seen some teachers doing some really cool things where they can tell their kids, set up the room for direct instruction. Boom, the kids arrange it like a little auditorium. Okay, set up the room for collaboration. The kids rearrange the room in little work pods. And I think that's really the right idea.
Yeah.
It's definitely along the lines that I'm looking for. I'm also looking for a classroom that has no interactive whiteboards. Interactive whiteboards are possibly the biggest boondoggle in all of history, because all that's happening with those is you've just taken away the whiteboard, but everything is the same. But the really, really worst part is that I see lots of people that they aren't even using the whiteboard at all. Like, you go walk into the classroom and there's literally just papers stuck on the board. That's a $5,000 investment.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money down the tubes. So I like the look of like 5 or 6 55-inch TVs all the way around the room that the kids can hook into. Every kid needs a device. I don't care which device. I have preferences, but every kid needs a device. I think over the next 10 years, what you're going to see is more and more often we're going to move to BYOD.
Oh, yeah.
I think somewhere in the next 10 to 15 years, it's going to look really weird for schools to supply students with devices.
Yeah.
Because they're going to become ubiquitous.
Yeah, true. If a teacher were to teach in that kind of a space, what kind of skills and knowledge would they need in order to be effective?
Okay, well, I liked what Michael Fullen said. I got to hear him speak one time. He's one of those cool cat researcher type guys. And Michael Fullen said that we've made a little bit of a course correction. We've gone from the sage on the stage, right? Everybody knows that phrase. Look at me, I'm the lecturer. Everybody loves listening to me. Then there was a group that came up with the idea of the guide on the side, right? That you're just kind of hanging out with the kids. And Fulton said that his research shows that's not powerful enough, that you really need to be, and I think John Hattie referenced this too, you really need to be the teacher as activator. Activator is different than guide on the side. See, the guide on the side goes, oh, well, you guys didn't finish your project on time. I guess you're all going to get a D. That isn't helping anything. The teacher has to actually engage in that process, and they have to be the kind of person that empowers kids to go farther. And I like what one of my coaching friends said, and he said his rule is that teachers give you academic information. That's what they do. They give you academic information. Coaches help you do something you can't do by yourself. You see that little difference there? And as long as the teacher can say, I gave them all the things they needed, and then they can emotionally distance themselves from the situation, then you're going to have an underperforming class. Whereas a coach is going to engage you and go, look, you have to be able to do this skill. I need you to enjoy this project. I want you to do something. I need you to be active during the day, whatever the case may be. In that scenario, it's a totally different aesthetic than, I gave them all the worksheets. I don't understand. I don't understand why they didn't pass. And you'll hear this in teacher lounges all the time. Oh, I gave them plenty of time. I don't know what happened. We talked about this. We didn't talk about anything, dude. You lectured at them.
Yeah. Yep. So thinking about like the third-party groups, educational associations, education companies, government agencies, what should all of those groups be doing better to support educators and classrooms?
There's two main things. Okay, I've got about 150,000 ideas, but the two main things. Number one is we've got to put our money where our mouth is. California is funded 49th in the nation for education. That is no way to build a country. We love nation building in Iraq, Afghanistan. How about some nation building here? And that means, and I'm not just talking technology here. I walk into school after school that looks like a disaster. It's built in the 60s and 70s. They try to maintain it, but it is nothing like state of the art. The flip side is I walk into these new schools where they're just throwing money at the school for no good reason. They're spending a ton of money more than they need to because of the nature of the system. So my first one would be efficient spending for schools. Efficient spending for schools. I want to spend more, but I want to do a better job of it. And then my second big idea is devices and technology have to be ubiquitous. The fact that we actually charge schools for Wi-Fi, for internet access is stupid, because here's a big idea for you. The internet doesn't cost anything. AT&T, Comcast, they don't pay anything for the internet. They're charging you for customer service. They're charging you for their trucks that drive around, but the internet doesn't cost anything. So right now they could say the internet is free for all schools. All the school has to do is pay for the connection, and then maybe they pay $100 a month towards, helping pay for the work trucks that are driving around. But schools don't cost us anything for internet. So my two big ideas would be spending appropriately on the facilities. I'm actually going to add a third idea: devices and internet for kids. Until all schools sit down and say, look, we're going to spend 8% on devices, and that's just what we're going to do. Here's a good example: McDonald's, those kinds of businesses, they set aside about 6 to 8% of their net profit every year. And that's why you'll be driving along one day and you'll see a McDonald's that's looking kind of old, and then boom, it's gone. And then a month later, brand new McDonald's. They don't go out and get a loan for that. They're setting money aside in a purposeful way. So imagine in Ed Code if it said, you must set aside 8% for devices. It's just making a decision. And then the third one is moving away from corporately designed lesson plans. We spend $9 billion a year, possibly more, on textbooks as a nation. What are we getting out of that? We aren't getting anything. If you look at the last 40 years of education as a science experiment, it's not going that good.
Yeah.
It's not. We're not getting any kind of good result. If you look at the last 40 years of education as a science experiment, just think of it as a science experiment. I'm going to take 30 million kids. I'm going to teach them how to read and write and do math. As a science experiment, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty much failed.
Yeah. So what do you think how do you think connected educators are going to benefit or change education in the next 5 years?
I think that's pretty easy, actually, because what's going to happen is the connected educators are actually going to raise the state of the art in the industry. Expectation. If you look at what like an Alice Keeler is doing, I'm sure you've heard of her. She's a Fresno Pacific, Fresno State gal. If you look at Lisa Highfill, who's doing the HyperDoc stuff. If you look at who's another good example? If you look at Matt Miller, Ditch That Textbook, Dave Burgess, they're literally changing what the industry is. And I think that grassroots approach is going to completely change it, because young teachers are going to see that early in their career, and then they're going to put 20 years of experience on that. And that's when the big change is going to occur. When people like yourself are becoming superintendents and assistant superintendents going, dude, we don't need textbooks. Give me a break. And so it's actually exciting because it's happening right now.
Yeah.
It's just happening on a really slow burn.
And yeah, I think it's as the newer generation of teachers are coming out and into the classrooms, they're already, the digital natives, and they're coming up into the classroom, bringing that in. I think it's going to really change. Yep. For sure. So.
I think that will totally work.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I would say thanks for reaching out. I'm glad that, your connection with Ed is a good example of this whole process, right? You're like, hey, Ed, I need a person to talk to.
Yeah.
In the old days, you would have been a pre-service teacher by yourself. You would not have known Ed. And there would have been no way to do this Google Hangout. And so, just the fact that we're doing this interview, it really proves the point of your whole question and answer phase here.
Yeah.
So bravo.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time. And
you're super welcome.
And I follow you on Twitter, so I will be in touch.
Well, all my sessions come with free lifetime tech support.
Oh, so, awesome.
So yeah, just if you have a question, just ask. It's fun to share, and I think that there's no I think there's no need for you to go it alone if somebody's been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah. Fabulous. Well, thank you very much, and have a good rest of your day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.